Let's move on to the next spot on the board for us. 1 p.m. Eastern, Houston Texans 1-8-1, 1-4 on the road at Miami Dolphins, 7-3, 4-1 at home. We're at Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida, 83 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 9 miles per hour. Let's move over to the line history in this one. Here we go. We have the Texans opening up at plus 11. They're now at plus 12.5. From a total standpoint, opens up at 45.5 and has gone up to 47. Let's take a look at the cash flow here in this one. We have, as I said earlier, Sports Insights has given the most line value to the Dolphins of any team playing. Just 1,210 tickets in, 89% of the tickets on the Dolphins and 98% of the cash. Then you have 37% of the tickets and 68% of the cash on the over, and you see it jump up 1.5 points. Possible look-ahead spot for the Texans as Deshaun Watson visits them next week. Texans coming off their fifth straight loss, 23-10 setback at home to the Commanders. Texans were outgained 246-5 in the first half. Fewest net yards and a half in franchise history. Davis Mills was 19 of 33 for 169 yards and 2 picks. It was minus 1 yard passing in the first half, and he was sacked 3 times in that first half, and the running game was abysmal. As a team, they ran 16 times for 21 yards. Damian Pierce ran 10 for just 8 yards. He entered the game 5th in the NFL with 772 yards rushing. Brandon Cooks caught 3 passes for 70. Nico Collins caught 5 for 48. The offense went 2 of 13 on third down. They had just 148 total yards, half of which went to Cooks. The defense did their best to keep them in the game, held the Commanders to 3 of 13 on third down, finished with 0 sacks, but got 6 quarterback hits, and were missing Derek Stingley, 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, missed the game with a hamstring injury. Dolphins come in fresh off their bye week. They were last seen a dominant 39-17 home win over Cleveland in week 10. It's crazy how different their defense looks at home than on the road. Tua was spectacular, 25 of 32 for 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. Since returning in week 7 from his concussion, 10 touchdowns and no picks. He leads the NFL in passer rating, 118.4, 2,265 yards, 18 touchdowns and 3 picks. Miami 7-0 in games that Tua finishes. 3rd best passing offense, and he's 1st in yards per pass attempt, 8.28. Last year, in his first 2 seasons, he completed 42.3% of his passes that traveled at least 10 yards in the air. This year, 68.7, according to Next Gen Stats. And it wasn't just Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Trent Sherfield, 4 passes for 63 yards. Alec Ingold caught 4 for 45 yards and a touchdown. Jeff Wilson, all of a sudden, this running game has been so bad for so long. Looked good. Jeff Wilson, 17 carries, 119 yards. Mostert, 8 for 65. Dolphins ran 33 times for 195 yards. The defense swarmed Brissett, 3 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. Miami held the Browns to 10 points after that opening drive by Cleveland. Dolphins entered the game ranked 27th in third down defense and 15th against the run. They held the Browns to a season-low 113 rushing yards. Their defensive end, Emmanuel Ogbah, was placed on season-ending injury reserve Monday. He hurt his triceps. And their cornerback, Keenan Crossan, is dealing with a shoulder injury. Take it away for us, Andy. Texans, Dolphins.
Yeah, you don't really want to bet this game, do you? This is tough. Likely the Dolphins just smack them, as someone just said in the chat. Spencer says this Miami Dolphins team over the last 5 games, and I've done a little bit of a kind of a stratification of some stats, looking at full season, last 8, last 5. Kind of looked at some how's the team trending, and Miami Dolphins over the last 5 games are your best offense in a lot of the metrics I'm looking at. This is a team that can just absolutely get after it if everyone's healthy, especially Tua. This team can really put it on you offensively. And if you want to go to the opposite end of the spectrum, the Houston Texans are last. EPA per play on offense, especially recently, even though they have covered some bigger spreads. I'm not in the business of sitting and laying 13. If you really think the Dolphins put the absolute beat down on this team, I don't see why you wouldn't just play an over. Games like we saw with Minnesota, Minnesota, Dallas, it just doesn't happen that often. If one team does put up 35 points, usually that game is going over. So if you really think this Miami offense is going to, win by 20 points, You probably like this over a bit as well. Maybe it's a nice correlated parlay for you, but I will pass on this one completely and maybe look for some props.
Yeah. Huge spread. Spenny says Dolphins smacked them off the bye, but 13 still a lot of points, but faves of 10 or more are covering at a very high rate. Dean Money looking at Tyreek anytime touchdown. Alex Ramirez in the house. Sky Dragon says under. If Houston scores, so be it. Could be 28-0 at the half, and I'd still feel comfortable with the under. Yeah, that's an ugly one. I guess I don't really know. I mean, you could take Miami first half. I mean, does Tua play in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to sit and like shoehorn a play in on a game I have no interest in playing with this. Like these huge spreads like this, you're really just you're guessing. You're playing with variance. Like it's you need a team who has no reason to care if they win by 14 points to care if they win by 14 points in the end. Like the other team's marching down for a like last night. The second half over was in the balance of that garbage drive by the Cardinals. And, the team is still playing hard individually, but like they had no reason to really care. He threw an interception and ended up tilting the second half total. Like that's like in games like this, especially where, the median expectation is this game to be a Miami big win. It's awful tough to like really make a good prediction of this. So, and Papa Cole says this line during the summer was Miami -7. Yeah, Houston has somehow fallen in the market because that's not all just Miami raising themselves up.
Last night I got in on the over 37.5 when it was raining hard early, and then I went for the middle with under 49 and under 51.5. So I was sweating out Trace McSorley there at the end, and that pick was like magic for me. Okay, I do have some interest in the Dolphins in the first half, but even that, I mean, it just feels like a kind of a. Let's move on at this point. Let's move on.